They wrote it in silence. Not to be sold, not to impress. They wrote it when there was no hope left outside, but something still lived inside. This manuscript wasn't found in display cases, but among loose papers, stained by time, with broken phrases that burned more than they explained. They say he wasn't a doctor, a shaman, or a prophet. And yet, those who read his message claimed to have felt something stir within, as if a forgotten part of the soul was activated upon hearing it. There are no formulas, no promises, only one certainty. What you haven't been able to heal with strength, you will heal with presence. What no expert could fix, your energy will remember when you enter within. Because this isn't a book about illnesses, it's a mirror. One that returns you to the origin, not of the body, but of the vibration that sustains it. This isn't about seeking miracles. It's about recognizing what was never there. And if you're listening to this, it was no coincidence. There's something in your field that's already begun to remember, that the body isn't the enemy. It's the messenger. That energy isn't ordered from the outside. It aligns from within. That you don't need to become a healer. You just need to stop running away from yourself. This book isn't trying to convince you of anything. It's just trying to reignite what went out without you realizing it. Get ready for a journey without noise, without dogma, without complicated techniques. Only one thing is needed here: to be present. Because if you got this far, it's because a part of you was already ready to return to the body, to return to the soul, to return to the vibrational power that never left, only silenced. And now it's awakening inside you.
Chapter 1. The body is not the origin. For centuries, we were led to believe that everything that hurts begins in the body, that if something goes wrong, the fault lies with an organ, a gene, a virus, or age. We were trained to look at the flesh, to attack the symptom, to combat the pain. But what if the body were not the origin but a reflection? What if everything we call illness were the final manifestation of something that began long before, in a more subtle place? This manuscript repeats it clearly. The body doesn't lie, but it doesn't decide either. The body translates. It translates what the soul couldn't say. It translates what the energy couldn't release. Every symptom, every ailment, every crisis is a message, not an enemy. A sign that the vibrational field that sustains your biology has lost harmony. I have seen people recover without drugs, and others, with the full arsenal of medical instruments, simply collapse. What differentiated them? It wasn't the diagnosis. It was their field. It was the emotional frequency they had sustained for years. It was the way they spoke to each other internally. The unspoken story their body ended up screaming, because the body doesn't get sick on its own. It responds to everything you keep quiet. Louise Hay sensed it when no one else was saying it. That cancer doesn't always originate in the tissue, but in an emotional wound that never heals. That arthritis can be solidified resentment. That asthma can be the cry of a soul that doesn't feel free to breathe. These weren't metaphors. They were truths that science is only just beginning to accept. Bruce Lipton took it further. He showed that genes don't dictate destiny. Your perception does. Your cells don't react to what happens. They react to what you think is happening. If you live in fear, your body lives in alarm. If you harbor guilt, your body lives in punishment. If you speak to yourself with contempt, your biology shuts down. And Joe Dispenza translated it into a simple formula. Thought creates the electrical signal. Emotion creates the magnetic signal. Together, they form your field. And that field decides everything. How you heal, how long it takes, whether you expand or contract. So, at what frequency are you emitting your reality? I remember a man with chronic stomach pains. He tried everything. Diets, medication, tests. Nothing changed. I asked him what he couldn't digest in his life. He fell silent. And then through tears, he spoke of an old betrayal, of an indignation he had swallowed unprocessed for years. The pain didn't come from the coffee. It came from what he had stored along with every sip. And so the body spoke, not with words, but with tension, with stiffness, with symptoms, with failures that were only expressions of a soul that no longer knew how to ask to be seen, because your body doesn't make mistakes. It screams what your field could no longer hold. Your back doesn't collapse just because of posture. It collapses because of the invisible burdens you've silently held. Your knees don't hurt just because of age. They hurt from the fear of giving up. Your lungs don't close from the cold. They close from a grief you never cried. This isn't magic. It's vibrational coherence. It's understanding that the physical is the last thing to appear, that the body is the final stage of a play that began long before, in what you felt and didn't express, in what you thought and didn't question, in what you believed you had to endure to be loved or accepted. So before looking for a cure outside, ask yourself this question: what part of me stopped being heard? Where in my history did I lose touch with my truth? Because no treatment will be enough if there is no reconnection. Because true medicine begins when you decide to look within. The body is not your punishment, it's your map. And if you learn to read it with love, every symptom becomes a guide, every pain, a compass, every illness, an opportunity to return to yourself. In the next chapter, we'll explore what happens when your energy is broken before your body screams. You'll see that everything that isn't processed emotionally becomes imprinted physiologically, and you'll discover how to begin repairing your field before matter has to do it for you. Chapter 2. When energy breaks, the body screams. Most illnesses don't begin with symptoms. They begin with silences, with emotions left unspoken, with thoughts that repeat like trapped echoes, with old wounds that weren't seen but continue to vibrate in your energetic field. And when that field, that invisible tissue that envelops and organizes your biology, breaks, the body has no choice but to scream. You don't get sick the day a fever, inflammation, or pain appears. You get sick long before, the day you began to live disconnected from yourself, the day you accepted the unacceptable so as not to lose love, the day you swallowed your anger, slept in fear, smiled out of obligation, said yes when your soul screamed no. That day your energy fractured, and from then on, something in you began to sustain a distorted field. Bruce Lipton, who dedicated his life to studying cells and their relationship with the mind, was clear. Your beliefs aren't just ideas, they're biological programs. If you think with fear, you live in contraction. If you feel inadequate, your immune system weakens. If you carry guilt, your body retains, becomes inflamed, and blocks. Not out of punishment, but out of coherence. Your body vibrates as you vibrate. Your field reflects what you hold within. I've seen this thousands of times. A woman suffering from neck pain had tried physical therapy, yoga, acupuncture. Nothing worked. I asked her, "Who do you carry in your thoughts every day?" Her face broke. My mother, even though she died 10 years ago. It wasn't her neck. It was the weight of an unreleased history. A young woman with irritable bowel syndrome diagnosed for years. I asked her, "What is it you can't let go of?" "Control," she answered without hesitation. It wasn't her gut. It was her need to control everything to feel worthwhile. A mother with fibromyalgia. "I'm tired," she told me. But it wasn't her body that was tired. It was her soul, from supporting an entire family without being able to ask for help. From giving until she broke. Do you understand now? Energy breaks when you betray yourself, when you abandon your truth to fit in, when you disconnect from your emotions and pretend to be okay. And then the body, as a last voice, screams what you can no longer deny. And it's no coincidence. Every part of the body has a vibration, an energetic function, an emotional memory. Your lungs aren't just organs. They are portals to your sadness. Your intestines aren't just digestion. They are your relationship with what you accept or reject in life. Your skin is your boundary. Your back is your support. Your heart is your coherence. And when you live in contradiction, your field becomes unbalanced. And that vibration, sustained over time, becomes chemistry. And chemistry becomes biology. And biology becomes diagnosis. Therefore, true medicine begins when you ask yourself these questions. What part of me isn't being heard? What emotion am I still repressing? What story am I still carrying that no longer vibrates with me? Joe Dispenza says that the field responds to what you emit, not what you desire. And if you emit from the wound, you will attract more reflections from that wound, not because the universe is punishing you, but because you are vibrating from that frequency. How do you begin to heal the broken field? First, stop fighting with your body. It is not your enemy. It is your ally. It is the only one who has been with you since the first heartbeat. Second, recognize that your emotion is energy in motion. Don't try to understand everything. Feel, breathe, allow yourself to grieve without judgment. Third, observe the cycles. What repeats itself? When does it hurt the most? With whom? These patterns aren't random. They're vibrational maps that show you where your field is broken. And fourth, create spaces of silence, of inaction, of listening. Because when the field is saturated with noise, it can't repair itself. But when there is presence, when you are with yourself without forcing, the energy begins to reorganize itself. And that's what no one tells you. Your body knows how to heal itself. Your energy knows how to return to order. But it won't do so if you keep running away from yourself. In the next chapter, we'll talk about how your soul speaks to you through your body, and how each symptom is a phrase in a language you forgot, but are now beginning to remember. Chapter 3. Your soul speaks through your body. Your soul has never been silent. It's just that you stopped understanding how it expresses itself. You believed that listening to it required rituals, esoteric techniques, or messages from beyond. But the truth is much closer and more radical. Your soul has always spoken to you, and its favorite instrument isn't the sky, it's your body. Every sensation, every symptom, every discomfort that arises in you isn't a biological coincidence. It's a vibrational letter written from within. It's your soul trying to remind you of what you forgot when you over-adapted, when you disconnected, when you began to live to please or survive, not to inhabit yourself. You don't understand it, because no one taught you to read that language. You were taught to silence your body with pills, to judge its signals as defects, to reject its forms, its cries, its tiredness. But if just for a moment you stopped resisting it and started listening to it, you would see that everything is there. Your closed throat isn't just stress, it's everything you didn't say. Your stiff knees aren't just age, it's the fear of giving up. Your ulcer isn't just heartburn, it's the anger you've swallowed 1,000 times without digesting. Your erupting skin isn't a mysterious allergy, it's your emotional limit gasping for air. I'm not saying this. It's said by thousands of souls who, by looking inward, began to heal from deep within, without needing to understand everything, just listening to what their body had been repeating for years. And here's the key, your body doesn't lie. Your body doesn't play games. Your body doesn't exaggerate. It only translates what your soul can no longer contain. And if you don't understand it now, it will turn up the volume. First it will be an annoyance, then a pain. And if you don't listen, it will be an illness. Not out of punishment, but out of love. Because the soul doesn't want you to be distracted anymore. It doesn't want you to keep putting off what's essential. I remember a woman who came in for migraines. Nothing was working. I asked her to write a letter. Not to her pain, but to the person she'd broken up with years ago and never got to say goodbye to. That night she wrote, cried, and the next day, her pain was gone. Because it wasn't just physical, it was her soul screaming with every beat in her temple. You need to close this cycle. A young woman with endometriosis told me, I feel like my body is betraying me. But upon further investigation, we discovered she'd never felt secure in her femininity. She'd been emotionally abused. Her body didn't betray her. It protected her. It tried to seal a place where her energy felt vulnerable. The body is your antenna. The soul is the transmitter. But if you live in noise, in demands, in disconnection, you'll only hear interference. You need silence to hear yourself. You need honesty to understand yourself. You need presence to return to yourself. And how do you start? It's not about reading books on energy anatomy. It's about feeling. When you feel a symptom, don't run. Don't anesthetize yourself. Gently ask yourself, what part of me wants to speak? What emotion am I ignoring? What story haven't I wanted to let go of? Place your hands on that place. Breathe. Stay there. Not with your mind, but with your field. And listen. Your soul doesn't speak in shouts. It speaks in pulses, in sensations, in fleeting images, in that tear that falls without understanding why, in that shiver with no apparent cause, in that sudden calm when you allow yourself to cry. Many want to know how to speak to their soul. I tell them, you are already speaking to it every time something in your body vibrates, pulsates, trembles, hurts, or lights up. Only you stopped believing in that language. You called it a coincidence. You called it stress. You called it weakness, but that wasn't it. It was your soul making its way as best it could. Louise Hay said it clearly. The body screams what the mouth keeps silent. And it wasn't a metaphor. It was an energy reading manual. Bruce Lipton confirmed that our cells respond to perception, not objective reality. So what perception are you holding? What emotion do you inhabit your body with every day? What story do you still believe that prevents you from releasing your energy? This isn't magic, it's spiritual biology, and the first step to reconnecting with your inner healer is to stop seeing the body as an enemy. and start seeing it as your best guide. In the next chapter, we'll talk about something even deeper, how attention, your focus, your gaze, your awareness, can transform your entire energy field, because energy follows attention, and where you look with love is where your true healing will begin. Chapter 4. Energy follows attention. What you look at grows. What you ignore withers. What you bless blooms. For a long time, we believed that healing was a matter of doing more effort, more techniques, more control. But no one taught us something much more powerful and forgotten, that energy moves where you direct your attention. Attention is your most immediate creative act. It's the flashlight you turn on in the darkness, and wherever you focus your light, something begins to change. Not because you understand it, but because you inhabit it. Your energy field responds to every inner gaze you hold. If you focus your consciousness on fear, fear organizes. If you focus it on pain, pain expands. But if you focus your energy on possibility, on calm, on remembering your power, everything begins to vibrate differently, because the universe doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to what you hold. Bruce Lipton put it clearly. The cellular environment changes based on what you perceive as real. Your cells don't distinguish between what's happening outside and what you hold inside. To them, your sustained thought is a fact. And what are you thinking every day? What story are you unwittingly reinforcing? Joe Dispenza explained that sustained attention is a vibrational command to the quantum field. Every time you think about something with emotion, your body becomes coherent with that signal. This is how manifestation works. It's not about strongly wishing, it's about inhabiting your attention with intention. And here's the most common mistake. People want to heal, but they spend their days focused on what hurts. They say they want peace, but they constantly think about what bothers them. They say they want change, but they repeat the same mental images from the past every day. And so, unknowingly, they feed what they want to let go of. I remember a man who had been suffering from chronic insomnia. He had tried everything, pills, meditations, herbal teas. Nothing worked. I asked him what he thought about when he went to bed. He told me that I won't be able to sleep. That simple phrase was his ritual. Every night, his attention surrendered to insomnia, and his field obeyed it. I proposed something seemingly absurd. Imagine he was floating in the sea, timeless, nameless, just breathing. At first he couldn't hold the image. His mind took him back to fear. But little by little, every night he practiced holding his attention in calm. By the third week, he was sleeping like a child, not by magic, but by vibrational training. Where your attention goes, goes your energy. And where your energy goes, your reality is built. This is more than a spiritual concept. It's a living law. You are already creating, even if you don't know it. Your repeated thoughts, your sustained emotions, your internal phrases are seeds. Some germinate in the form of well-being, others in the form of fatigue, blockage, or pain. So ask yourself honestly, what are you paying attention to today? What mental stories do you repeat every morning? What images do you cultivate just before bed? From what emotion are you focusing your life? Because it's not enough to want to heal. You have to begin focusing your energy on what truly nourishes you, on what truly resonates with you, on what you truly deserve. A powerful exercise. Before going to sleep, close your eyes and imagine your body filled with light. Don't look for effects. Just hold that image for 2 minutes. At first, the mind will want to escape. Fear will want to interrupt. But if you decide to hold the focus, something begins to reorganize. Do this for 7 days. Not to achieve something, but to train your attention like someone training the most neglected muscle in their field. Attention is the healer's wand. You don't need external formulas if you know how to focus your awareness with love. A woman who carried years of chronic pain began this simple act of focusing her energy on what she truly wanted to feel: softness, relief, lightness. She didn't achieve it immediately, but a few weeks later she told me something I'll never forget. My body doesn't weigh me down like it used to. She wasn't referring to physical weight. She was referring to the weight of her consciousness sustained by the pain. She shifted her focus. She shifted her field. The key is this: healing doesn't begin when the pain goes away, but when you choose to stop inhabiting it with your attention. When you decide not to reinforce it every day with your thoughts. When you choose to look elsewhere, even if the symptom is still there, even if fear whispers. Because your attention is stronger than any diagnosis, and if you focus your awareness on what strengthens you, what gives you meaning, what ignites your energy, then the field will respond. Not because you force it to, but because you are ultimately guiding it. In the next chapter, you will discover the most immediate and forgotten power you have, your breath. You'll see how the simplest act, when conscious, can transform your energy, release tension stored for years, and return you to the present moment where everything begins to heal. Chapter 5. Your breath is a sacred key. Breathing, something so simple, so automatic, so forgotten. You do it thousands of times a day without thinking. But what if I told you that every breath contains a code, that every inhalation is a door, and that every exhalation can be a profound release? Your breath is the bridge between the invisible and the visible. It is the silent language with which your soul communicates with your body. It is the only vital function you can control with willpower, and that at the same time functions without you. That makes it a sacred key. In the most ancient traditions, from yoga to shamanism, breathing was not considered a biological act, but a ritual. Breath was prana, chi, ruach, pneuma, vital breath. Not just any air, but living energy, intelligence that enters and leaves the body, carrying information with it. But you do it in a hurry, short, tense, labored breaths, because your life is like this, short, tense, interrupted. Have you noticed that when you're anxious, you stop breathing? That when you're in danger, you hold your breath? That when you cry, you breathe as if your body were breaking? Your breathing reveals your emotional state even before you can put it into words, and it can also transform it. Modern medicine is already recognizing this. Studies show that slow, deep breathing activates the vagus nerve, regulates the parasympathetic system, and reduces cortisol levels. But this isn't new. Your body always knew. It's just that external noise made you forget. A true story. A woman who had survived an accident lived with night terrors. She couldn't sleep. She felt like her air was leaving her every time she closed her eyes. I asked her something simple, not to try to sleep, just to breathe. 4 seconds in, 4 seconds out, 6 seconds in, nothing more. The first night, she trembled. The second, she cried. The third time, she slept. It wasn't magic. It was cellular memory. Her body remembered she was safe, because the body needs signals and breathing is the most direct. Every time you breathe with awareness, you're telling your field, I am here, and that's already beginning to heal. Breathing as vibrational alchemy. How can something so simple move such deep memories? Because when you breathe, you open space, and where there is space, stagnant energy can move, frozen emotions soften, old tensions find an outlet. Your breath is also a thermometer. Observe your breath and you will see your truth. People who live in control breathe only in the upper part of their chest. Those who carry guilt sigh constantly. Those with a closed heart can't fully exhale. And you, how do you breathe when no one is watching? You don't need a complicated technique. You just need to give yourself permission to inhabit your breath with presence. Do this now. Stop. Close your eyes. Inhale slowly through your nose. Feel the air entering. Hold. Exhale gently through your mouth. Repeat. Listen. There you are. Breath as a mirror of the soul. An old man once told me, when I breathe slowly, I feel something accompanying me. I asked him what that something was. He looked at me and replied, it's me, but calmer. That is the essence of conscious breathing. Reconnecting with yourself without noise, without judgment, without demands. How to begin a daily practice. You don't need a mat or a meditation room. You need intention. Basic exercise, 5-minute ritual. 1. Sit with your back straight. 2. Close your eyes gently. 3. Inhale through your nose for a count of 4. 4. Hold for 4 seconds. 5. Exhale through your mouth for a count of 6. 6. Do this for 5 minutes, observing how your field changes. Do it every morning, not to get it right. Do it to remind yourself, because every breath is a return to you, to your center, to your field. And when the field is ordered, the body listens. A powerful truth. You can't breathe and lie to yourself at the same time. Conscious breathing reveals what's out of place, what's pending, what no longer resonates with you. And when you exhale, you can let it go. The key is this: you don't need to control anything. You just need to accompany yourself with your breath. And there, between one inhalation and the next, you will return to yourself. In the next chapter, you will discover that your hands don't just touch, they emit. That touch is not only physical, but energetic, and that by learning to touch yourself with presence, you can activate the healing memory that has been dormant in your body for years. Chapter 6. Conscious touch. Your hands are not tools. They are memory. They are energy. They are an extension of the soul that, when activated, can transform the invisible into relief. We knew this since we were children, without anyone explaining it to us. When something hurt, we brought our hands there. When fear arose, someone hugged us and our body calmed down. Who taught us that? No one. Because it's not learned, it's remembered. Conscious touch is an ancient language, as old as the first cry that was sustained, as the first wound that was tenderly caressed. Touching isn't just physical contact, it's a transfer of presence. It's telling your body, I am with you, you are not alone. And when you do it from that intention, something opens, something is released, something begins to heal. The problem is that we've forgotten how to touch with our soul. We touch screens, objects, doors, keys, but we don't touch ourselves with devotion. We wash, we push, we correct ourselves, but we almost never caress ourselves without demand. That's why the body hardens. That's why some areas hurt for no apparent reason, because they're waiting to be touched with love. A woman came to me with a phrase I've never forgotten. I feel like my belly isn't mine. She had undergone surgery years before, and since then she avoided touching herself, as if that part of her body had been disconnected from her identity. I suggested a simple act. Every night before sleeping, place your hands there and breathe, just that. Without judgment, without words. The first week she felt discomfort, the second, sadness, the third, warmth, and the fourth, she cried. I inhabited myself again, she said. It wasn't magic, it was reconnection. The body doesn't ask for techniques, it asks for presence. The hands know the way, they just need you to free them from judgment. Using quantum physics, Bruce Lipton explains that every cell vibrates, and that this vibration can be harmonized by nearby energy fields. Your hands, especially your palms, are active centers of vibrational emission. When you place one hand on your chest, you change the frequency of your nervous system. When you place both hands on your belly, you create an emotional containment field. And you? Have you touched your body today without demanding it? Have you told it with your hands that you recognize it, even if it's not perfect, even if it still hurts? An exercise to start with. Find an area you usually avoid. It could be the abdomen, the chest, the neck. It doesn't matter which, it matters how. Place your hand there, without squeezing. Just place it. Breathe. Be silent. Don't look for answers. Just feel. After a few minutes, ask yourself, what part of me are you protecting? And listen. Don't respond logically. Let something emerge. Sometimes it's not a word. It's an emotion, an image, a sensation. That's energetic language. Touch as prayer. There are gestures that need no explanation. A hand on the forehead when someone has a fever, an open palm over the heart in moments of anguish, a long embrace that asks for nothing. All of this puts the body in order, because when there is real presence, the body knows it, and it surrenders, and it repairs itself. Touch also has ancestral memory. Ancient cultures knew this. In Egypt, priests used their hands to align the body's energy. In India, prana moved through mudras. In ancient America, healers placed their hands on the earth before touching another being, not out of superstition, but out of respect. Your hands have also held pain. They have also hurt. They have also been closed out of fear. Therefore, before using them to heal, you need to reconcile with them. Look at your hands now. Observe them. Remember all they have done. Thank them, because they have witnessed your journey, and they are still willing to accompany you. How do you practice conscious touch with others? It's not about technique, it's about being. To offer your hand as a clean channel, without the intention of healing, without the desire to save, only to accompany. To touch without invading. To accompany without correcting. To support without demanding. That is healing. One day a man said to me, I didn't know a hug could heal. I replied, it wasn't the hug, it was your permission to receive it, because hands don't heal. What heals is the vibration that travels through them when the soul is present. The key is intention. You can touch with compassion or with judgment. You can place your hands with tenderness or with haste. Only one of those vibrations transforms, and you know which one it is. In the next chapter, we will enter into silence, not as absence but as vibrational medicine. You will see how the simple act of stopping the noise activates one of the most powerful tools for reordering your field: deep stillness. Chapter 7. The silence that reorders your field. Not everything that heals makes noise. In fact, True transformations happen in silence, in that invisible space where there are no more words, no defenses, no explanations, only presence, only field, only you. We live surrounded by stimuli, information, screens, notifications, conversations we don't feel, words that mean nothing. All that noise becomes part of the body. It contaminates it, tires it, distorts it, because noise isn't only external. There's also a noise that lives inside you, the one that doesn't let you rest, the one that repeats what you haven't healed, the one that fears the void. But the soul doesn't manifest itself in screams. It reveals itself in the spaces, in the pause, in the moment when everything shuts off and you can finally hear yourself. When someone asks me how to begin healing, I usually respond with something disconcerting. Stop doing, just stop. And many don't understand. How am I going to heal myself without doing anything? But it's not about doing, it's about being, and no one can be fully present if they're trapped in noise. Silence is a vibrational medicine that isn't sold or taught, it's only experienced. And when you do it, your field begins to reorder itself. The dense layers you've accumulated begin to release. Broken energy finds its form. The body breathes differently, because silence isn't absence. It's invisible organization. It's restoration. I remember a man who had tried all kinds of therapies, acupuncture, regressions, Reiki, traditional medicine. He was still sick, exhausted, misaligned. I asked him how much time he spent in silence each day. He looked at me confused. Total silence, he said. Never. I suggested something simple. 10 minutes a day. No music, no guidance, no intention. Just being. At first he couldn't stand it. He said he felt anxious, that his heart was beating faster. I replied, "That's not the silence that bothers you. It's what appears when you can no longer hide from the silence." 3 weeks later, he cried, "I haven't felt this peace in years." Because silence shows you. It doesn't invent. It doesn't cover up. It doesn't distract. It just brings you back to yourself. And you, when you are with yourself, without masks, without goals, without noise, you repair yourself. Bruce Lipton talks about electromagnetic coherence, about how the body has its own order when it's not interfered with. The nervous system, the heart, the vibrational field, they all align when you enter deep stillness. You don't need to know how it works. Your body already knows. It just needs space. And yet, we're afraid of silence. Because there, echoes appear. The voices we avoid appear, the memories we don't name, the tears we held back for years. But it's also there where the simplest miracle happens. Remembering that you already knew how to be at peace. And how do you practice this silence that reorders? You don't need a temple. You don't need technique. Just this. 1. Find a place without interruptions. It doesn't matter if it's small. Make it yours. 2. Sit. Close your eyes. Turn off everything. 3. Don't seek anything. Don't try to control the mind. Let it be. 4. Place your attention in the space between one thought and another, that gap, that breach. There the field begins to repair itself. 5. Breathe. And when the mind screams, just observe it. Don't fight it, just return. In time you will feel something different. A subtle expansion, a gentle warmth, a pulse. That is your energy returning home. Remember, silence is not for escaping, it's for returning. Louise Hay said, "Within each of us there is profound wisdom, but we need to be silent to hear it." And he was right. Wisdom is not heard with the ears, it is recognized in the field. In modern culture, we have forgotten this power. We want immediate solutions, constant noise, perpetual distractions, but nothing valuable grows in chaos. All that is sacred flourishes in silence. And if you can hold that space, even for minutes each day, you are reminding your body that it doesn't need to scream to be heard. You are reminding your soul that it is not alone. You are allowing your field to settle into its natural frequency. And that is healing. The key, don't fear silence. Fear forgetting yourself. Because when you forget who you are, any noise convinces you that you need something external to complete you. But you are not broken. You are just overstimulated. And silence is the desert where everything sprouts again. In the next chapter, you will discover that you didn't come here to fix yourself. You came to remember yourself. And that maybe you don't need to heal, but to remove what prevents you from recognizing yourself. Chapter 8. You don't need to heal, you need to remember. For years you were led to believe you were broken, that something inside you needed to be fixed, repaired, improved. You were convinced that only through effort, sacrifice, or outside help could you be well again. You were sold the idea that healing meant adding new layers, but no one told you the simpler truth, that healing, in reality, is removing what you are not, what you carried without knowing, what you inherited without questioning, what you kept quiet to fit in. Healing is remembering your original frequency, the one you had before the wound, before the fear, before the expectations of others. Your soul is not sick, it's covered, it's forgotten, but it's not damaged, only dulled by a story you didn't write. Listen to this. You don't need anyone to complete you. You don't need mystical techniques or magic formulas. What you need is space, courage to look at yourself without judgment, silence to listen to yourself without noise, and a decision. Stop repeating the lie that you're not enough. Joe Dispenza experienced it. After an accident that left him on the verge of paralysis, he discovered that his body began to regenerate only when his consciousness aligned with its energy. When he stopped fearing and began to remember that he wasn't a body, he was a field. And from that field, anything is possible. Bruce Lipton explained it in biology. Your cells don't obey your genes, they obey your beliefs. And if you believe you're broken, your body will live at war. But if you remember that you are already whole, then the field begins to respond differently. And you, what do you believe about yourself? Do you see yourself as someone sick, lost, incomplete? Or are you able to feel, even for seconds, that beneath all that layer of pain there is an intact version of you that still vibrates? That version doesn't need healing, it just needs to be remembered. A story I'll never forget. A young man came to me devastated. He didn't believe in anything, not even himself. He had tried therapies, books, retreats. Nothing touched him. I asked him a single question. Do you remember a time in your life when you truly felt like yourself? He took a while. He hesitated. And then he said, when I drew as a child. I asked him to do it every night, not to heal, but to remember himself. Simple drawings, no purpose, no goal, just him, a pencil, and the memory of what made him tick. A month later, he came back. He didn't say, I'm healed. He said something deeper. I feel like myself, and that was it. Because sometimes the soul doesn't need formulas. It just needs to return. Healing isn't an upward path. It's a spiral toward the center. Every layer you peel back, every mask you let go, every story you no longer repeat, brings you closer. Not toward something new, but toward who you always were. You're not here to correct yourself. You're here to express yourself from your purest frequency. And that doesn't require perfection. It requires vibrational honesty. How do you remember what you were? Not with your mind, with your body, with your emotions, with your vibrations. Do this. Close your eyes. Recall an image where you felt free, not loved by others, but at peace with yourself. What you were doing, what you felt, what was in the air. Breathe there. Feel your energy shift. You don't need to dwell in the past. You just need to bring its vibration into the present. Because what you were still lives in you. It's just dormant beneath the noise. Louise Hay said, you don't heal by learning something new. You heal by letting go of the old belief. And it is true. Every thought you repeat about not being enough, about not being able to, about not deserving, is a learned distortion. And every time you choose to remember yourself, the field responds. Not as a technique, but as a returning echo. Remember this. You are not your symptoms. You are not your history. You are not your diagnosis. You are what was before. You are the frequency that came to this life to experience. And that frequency doesn't need you to fix it. Just stop hiding it. A simple exercise. Write a letter from your childhood, not to heal, but to remember. Tell it who you are today. Remind it of what made you vibrate. Ask it not to fade, and then keep it in a sacred place. Every time you forget, read it, not as a ritual, but as a reunion. The key, your healing isn't ahead, it's behind, in what you left behind, in who you were before the world hurt you, before the walls, before duty, before fear. And when you remember, when that frequency vibrates within you again, you will understand that you don't need so much, that nothing is missing, that you were already everything. In the next chapter, we will talk about forgiveness, but not as a moral gesture, but as a vibrational alchemy, because what you don't let go of continues to rule you, and you're ready to break free. Chapter 9. Forgiveness, the medicine that releases stagnant energy. Forgiveness isn't a noble act. It isn't a moral discourse. It isn't a, I must do it, to be a good person. Forgiveness is an energetic necessity, a clean break with what no longer vibrates within you. Many believe that forgiving means exonerating the other, setting them free. But the truth is simpler and more brutal. Forgiveness doesn't free the other, it frees you. Because every emotion you don't let go, every wound you hold onto in anger, every story you keep repeating in your head is a thread that ties you to a dead past. And you can't create a future from a rotten field. Listen to this. Resentment is a burden, vibrational, biological, spiritual, and that burden remains embedded in your field like an invisible object that distorts everything. Your voice, your health, your relationships, your capacity to receive love. Everything curves around that unreleased memory. Caroline Myss put it bluntly. Resentment is an anchor. No one ascends with an anchor around their neck. And it's true, because you can't rise with a soul full of unfinished stories. And it's not about minimizing the damage, it's about recovering the energy you lost holding it. I've seen people fall ill from hatred, literally, tense bodies, chronic illnesses, unexplained pain. All of this is often not physical, it's stagnant energy. Energy trapped in old emotions that continue to emit war signals, even though the conflict is over. I remember the case of a woman who lived with unbearable migraines, years of treatments. No one could find the cause. I asked her if she hated anyone. She looked down. Her sister. They hadn't spoken for a decade. And what do you feel when you think of her? Fire. I asked her not to call her, not to write to her, just to write every night what she never said. 1 letter a night. No filter. No limit. By the 7th letter, she wasn't talking about her sister. She was talking about her need to free herself, about her desire to stop living connected to that wound. A month later, the migraines disappeared, not because she forgave with her mind, but because she let go with her body. Forgiveness isn't rational, it's vibrational, and your field knows it. Bruce Lipton explained that emotions modify the chemical environment of cells. When you hold anger, your immune system declines, your energy contracts, your body becomes inflamed, and when you release it, the body regains its natural capacity for regeneration, not by magic, but by coherence. So, what is forgiveness? It's deciding that your energy is worth more than a story. It's stopping using your power to keep alive an emotion that consumes you. It's letting go not for them, but for yourself, because every time you repeat the damage, you make it real again. Every time you feel it with anger, you reactivate it in your field. And that's not justice, it's self-inflicted emotional torture. How to begin true forgiveness? Don't start with the other person. Start with yourself, by accepting that holding the pain has cost you too much. Then do this. Sit down, breathe, close your eyes, and visualize that person or situation. Not from a place of love if you can't yet, from a place of truth, from the wound. Place your hand over your heart and say, I no longer need to hold you in my field, not so you can change, but so I can live. Repeat that phrase every day. Write it down if you need to. Cry if it triggers. But don't stop, because forgiveness is a process. It's not a decision, it's an energetic practice. Do this for 7 days. Each day, write 1 line, just one. Not what you think, but what you feel, without a filter, without judgment. On day 7, read them all, and then burn them. Not as an external ritual, but as an internal decision to let go. And if you can't forgive yet, that's okay, don't force yourself. Just stop feeding the anger. Don't sit down to dinner with it every day. Don't make it your identity. Just observe how it lives inside you, and make room for something more. Because forgiveness begins when you stop repeating the hurt. Louise Hay said, forgiveness doesn't mean approving of what happened. It means releasing the past so it doesn't ruin your present. And that's it. It's not forgetting, it's deactivating, it's not reconciling, it's letting go. Because you are no longer that version of yourself that was hurt. You now have a different vibration, a different level of consciousness, a different strength. And from there you can decide what story to continue telling. The key, forgiveness is energetic medicine. And when you use it without ego, without expectation, without disguised revenge, the field responds. The body relaxes. The voice softens. Your light expands. Because in the end, you don't forgive because the other deserves it. You forgive because you deserve to live light. And when that lightness arrives, you no longer want revenge. You just want peace. In the next chapter, we'll talk about expansion, how to create a new vibrational field from which you can live not as a survivor, but as a creator. Because forgiveness is the end of one story and the beginning of another that you will write. Chapter 10, The Ritual of the Invisible Healer. After releasing stagnant energy through forgiveness, there is no void left behind. There is a space, a clean, silent place where resentment once vibrated. And that space, which many experience as uncertainty, is actually the fertile ground where the sacred is born. You don't need incense, you don't need mantras, you don't need an altar full of objects. You just need to be, because where there is authentic presence, there is medicine. True ritual is not done with candles or external symbols, but with the willingness to sit with yourself and not run away, to breathe without seeking answers, to touch your own heart without the urgency to fix it. That is what the ancient sages understood and what many have forgotten, that the most powerful healer doesn't show themselves. They vibrate. A true healer doesn't impose their energy, they simply hold it. And you can be that invisible healer, not to save others, but to inhabit yourself with coherence. Do it like this. Find a quiet corner, even if it's just for 5 minutes. Sit with your back straight and your expectations released. Place your hand on your chest and ask yourself quietly, what part of me needs to be seen today? Then breathe. Stay. Don't correct anything. Don't try to understand. Just be with you. That's a vibrational ritual, a daily gesture of love, a way of telling your field, I am here, I will no longer abandon you. A woman once told me that she had healed more in 5 minutes of present silence than in years of self-demand disguised as spirituality. Because the soul doesn't ask for techniques, it asks for honesty. It asks that you look at it without judgment, even if you don't know how to continue. Remember, what you contemplate with fear hardens. What you contemplate with love transforms. And if these words resonated in some deep part of you, don't rush to understand, just feel them. And if you decide to continue this journey back to your energy, we'll be waiting for you right where you stopped looking.